The issue we're looking at is climate jobs and a just transition. The event is sponsored by a number of organisations: Green Foundation Ireland, the Green European Foundation, the Pecan project I'm involved in. It's not about nuts, although some of us probably are. That's the Place-Based Climate Action Network, and Queen's University Belfast and Greenhouse. So a lot of different organisations have come here to make this possible. For me, this is the only thing that I'm concerned about in terms of the major issue. The issue we're facing is that we're at the beginning, in my view, of the end of the oil age, the end of the age of carbon. Coal, oil and gas have to stay in the ground if we're to have any chance of keeping global temperatures below 1.5 degrees.
To visualise the scale of change we need to bring about so that we don't fall into this trap of talking about climate change and then letting the powers that be pretty much continue to walk us in the same direction as before. I'm going to hand over to Peter to talk about the detail of what I say we have done, but it's very much what he has done.
If we're going to get to net zero carbon, if we're going to avoid the biodiversity, mass extinction event we're living through, what needs to change? We need to have some more public transport, so there's got to be some more people driving buses. That's a definite change that's got to happen, and that has definite job consequences. So, new climate jobs, where? So some of these things are scaled by population, so you've got the amount of transport, the amount of recycling, the amount of the buildings that need retrofits, to some degree those fit with population. And then other things like things that are based on natural resources, whether they be wind or whether they be soil, fertile soils, they are more scaled by land area, but also type of land.
We're trapped in a series of ever-decreasing circles by the economic model that dominates. The Earth is a finite resource, so we need to find something different. And here's the thing, thinking around the edges won't work.
So what is happening in our industries? What is happening in Northern Ireland? Where's our opportunities? Well, definitely in electricity, we're seeing a big change. We, at the moment, have 40% of our electricity coming from renewable sources, mostly onshore wind. Now, that's reassuring, and we've overstretched ourselves. We've exceeded the target that we were to meet at 40%. So it shows we can do it. And that has happened because the wind industry has moved with the government and the policy and the funding to make that happen. You've got a happy marriage of about 3 different things that come together and came together in a timely way.
Climate change is going to affect everybody. It's going to affect everybody regardless of gender, class, ethnic background, ableism or disability. Affiliations to political states are irrelevant when it comes to climate breakdown. We are in all in this together. And for that reason, we're a big community who are facing the biggest challenges we've ever faced as a global society. We're all humans on one planet, and we all have to take action if we want to respond to climate breakdown.
We were told money doesn't grow on trees. Mario Draghi, he said we can't simply print money. And what did he do then? Quantitative easing, the magic money tree. And it revealed for the first time actually an awful lot about how money works in this society and who controls money supply, who controls investment. And there is an argument and a lot of work to be done by all of us about how money works, how money supply works, how money is created, how value is created, and who's in control of all of that, because we're not. The control of that lies in private hands and in private interests, to the point where the whole world can mobilise 50% of world GDP to preserve a failed system. The other problem we have, a couple more slides, is that it's not simply the case, is it, of designing. We have loads of these answers, loads of great technology, loads of really good ideas, all the way from the Lucas plan back in the 1970s, of how we might change things to decarbonise our economy.
Then you know, if you do get through that hostility and some very clear myths that I encountered from farmers in every part of the country, so like why don't we look at people who fly first? Why don't we look at you know, the larger countries who are emitting more? The consistency of the rebukes were such that they're coming from somewhere. That's not coincidental. But once you got through all of that, what came back it all came back to was cheap food and consumers who are both cash poor and time poor.
27% of UK equivalent carbon emissions are from the transport sector. It's not great. We have been trying to do a lot to abate that. We'll be talking about some of the technologies in that area. And about 90% of those are being transferred from the road transport sector. Globally, the annual kind of statistics are showing about $1 trillion worth of health damages are traceable straight back to our transport sector. Again, it's just really trying to highlight the importance, the emphasis, and why actually making these step change in the technology, not just from the perspective of the Clean Transport Initiative, but the wider kind of health impacts is really key and critical. And in the UK, as I said, we haven't actually done that bad a job. It's not been great, it's not as much as we could have done, but we have been leading ultra-low technology developments right across the UK and across all sectors of the transportation industry, looking at the kinds of initiatives that the likes of Jaguar Land Rover, Millbrook, Myra, Equipmake, more locally up the road in Wrightbus, really starting to drive forward those initiatives, developing those high-skilled jobs, putting those new technologies out into the market and encouraging uptake. I think the one thing that's really disappointing for us here in Northern Ireland, when we look at the kind of the road to zero, which Claire again mentioned earlier, the map associated with it has one dot in Northern Ireland. There is an awful lot more that we could be doing here in upskilling, developing businesses and really exploiting these opportunities to be really driving the market forward in these new ultra-low emission technologies, zero emission technologies, and really demonstrating our potential to lead in that sector.
I was asked to say a little bit of word why we need to talk about a global deal for people, or a global Green Deal, or people's demands, because obviously the Green Deal frame works very much in the global north, and it has particular roots, of course, because of the US. But it's growing, right? I mean, it's growing. You've seen it now in the United States with both Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, but many of the Democrats talking about a Green Deal. Obviously, in the elections now, we've got climate moving up the agenda, and people in the Labour Party talking about a Green Deal. Similarly, in Spain, there's talk of a Green Deal as the Spanish elections are taking place. Interestingly, the European Commission has tried to adopt the word Green Deal and is talking about its policies as being a European Green Deal. But it's very much dominating and it's growing in the global north. But I wanted to talk about why we needed a much deeper and broader just or a justice transition.